Okay, so today we're going to be learning about multiplication, and we'll focus on understanding multiplication using equal groups and arrays. By the end of this lesson, you will understand what multiplication really means, how equal groups work, how arrays show multiplication, and how multiplication appears in real life. So, multiplication is a way to add equal groups equally. So instead of adding the same number over and over again, we can just multiply it to simplify the equation. So for example, the equation 3 plus 3 plus 3 equals 9 is the exact same as saying 3 times 3, which equals 9. Multiplication can help us save time, count faster, and organize numbers better. Whenever you see the same number repeated, multiplication can help. Equal groups means each group has the same number of items. For example, if there are 4 groups with 5 items in each group, then that equation would equal 4 times 5, because each group has the same number. You can get this result. If the groups are not equal, multiplication does not work. Equal groups are the key to multiplication. In multiplication, the numbers we multiply are called factors. So in 4 times 5, 4 equals the number of groups and 5 equals the number in each group. And the answer to a multiplication problem is called a product, which is the total number of items or numbers in each group. Multiplication always tells us groups times items in each group, which equals the total. So when looking at this example, there are 3 groups and each group has 4 stars. So there's 1, 2, and 3 groups, and they have 4 stars in total. So if you multiply or add these 4, you would get 12 stars in total. But if you use the multiplication equation, then you could just write 3 times 4, which would also give you the same product of 12. An array is a picture made of rows and columns. Rows go side to side and columns go up and down. Arrays help us see multiplication visually. So they can help us organize objects, count faster, and see equal groups clearly. So for example, this array has 2 rows and 6 items in each row. So instead of counting each star, we can just multiply the 2 rows by the 6 items, which can equal the equation 2 times 6, which has a product of 12. Arrays help us see multiplication without counting one by one. So when we use arrays, the first number tells us the number of rows, and the second number tells the number of columns. So in this example, you'll see 4 times 3, and the first number would equal the rows, and the second number would equal the columns. Arrays help us understand what each number means. Arrays help us see equal groups clearly, count faster, and get ready for harder math like area and division. Using arrays makes multiplication easier to understand and remember. So skip counting and multiplication can work together. So for example, if you have 5 groups of 2, then you can use the 2 columns and skip count 5 times. So it would be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and then 10 would give you your product. Skip counting can help us find the total without counting each object individually. Multiplication is basically just repeating addition over and over again. So in this example, 4 times 3 equals 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3, which is 4 groups of 3. And arrays in equal groups show repeated addition in an organized way, so they simplify it to make it clearer. If each box has 8 markers and there are 5 boxes, then this example would create 5 groups of 8, which would also equal this equation, which is 5 times 8. Instead of opening each box in this example, we can just write this number or equation. Multiplication saves time in real life. So another example is if chairs are arranged in rows to make an array, 6 rows with 4 chairs in each row means 6 times 4. Multiplication can appear everywhere around us. The commutative property means order does not matter. So for example, the equation 3 times 4 is also equivalent to 4 times 3. Arrays can be flipped or turned, but the total stays the same. This helps make multiplication much easier. So when looking for patterns of multiplication arrays, then you can question if the groups are equal, if the rows are repeated, and if the columns are the same. These clues tell us multiplication is happening. So to help understand this better, you can start with smaller groups and use drawings and arrays, and practice with skip counting like we did before, and also memorize the facts slowly. You have to understand all of these before actually doing your multiplications. Some common mistakes in multiplication include counting rows or columns incorrectly, mixing up rows and columns, using unequal groups, and confusing addition with multiplication. So you have to watch out if you want to avoid these mistakes. So let's do an example here. If you see 3 rows of 7, then that will equal the equation 3 times 7, which will give you your product of 21, because the 7 is added 3 times. And rows help us decide the multiplication sentence. So another example is if you see 5 groups of 4 pencils, then that would equal 5 times 4, and the product of this equation would equal 20 pencils. Groups can tell us what to multiply. So as a review, multiplication means equal groups. Arrays show rows and columns. Skip counting helps find totals, and arrays help us visualize multiplication. So that is the end of the lesson. And basically this understand can help you with bigger multiplication equations, division, and area, and future math lessons too.